Good day, this is Tshilidzi Mavhungu from Tshilidzi Mavhungu Financial Literacy Foundation, and this is your Financial Literacy Corner, where we talk everything money related and talk more about financial literacy. Let me remind you, around 50% of South Africans are financially illiterate, and listening to this may change that in your life, and you may understand money more than you understood it before. Today, we want to touch on a topic that is not mostly talked about: protecting your future and money mindset. Protecting your future and money mindset. Previously, we talked about wealth, and before that, we talked about budgeting. You budget as a foundation to start building wealth, and you create wealth through investing in assets and saving. But now you have done all that. You are now a good investor. You are now good in budgeting. But then things happen. Because things happen, people are losing their wealth through different situations. It can be floods, different natural disasters. You may say, you know what, I've built a nice shop for myself where I sell stuff. I've invested in a certain company, but things do happen, and you may lose everything in an instant. What do you do? But you may also lose everything because of your mindset. The way you think can make you lose everything. And that's what we're going to tackle today. I want us to think about it. There are people that we knew when we were growing up who had it all. That boy whose dad owned the shop next door. That girl who had a mother who owned a shop where we used to buy sweets when we were growing up. Where are those shops today? That madala who had trucks in your area. Where are those trucks? Are they still there, or are they gone? Most of the time, this wealth gets lost in the process. Either when the owner of the business passes on, or when they get into trouble with the law, or when they are sued and they lose everything. And at the end of the day, they were supposed to protect this wealth. The mindset we have may determine whether we're going to keep the wealth we have or we're going to lose it, because you need to nurture and take care of the wealth that you have accumulated over the years. We will call this financial adulting. Become an adult and act like one when it comes to your wealth. Because without that, you may start behaving the way that most people behave the minute they start earning income. You know, they always say people change. But some people say people don't change. That is who they were even before. But it's just that now they can afford to be who they were always from the beginning. And now they're just showing you the true colors. The colors that they were hiding for years. So the wealth can do that to you. Wealth can be a source of mistreating people and pushing people away from you and doing things that can get you into trouble, and you lose everything that you have. I'll always give examples of times when I worked in the banking space, and also times when I worked in the insurance space, and now in the business space, in the accounting space. That there are people who would come after winning a lump sum, and you sit them down and tell them that this is how you should handle your money. Immediately after giving advice to them, a lot of other people that do not have any financial background will come and convince them to do other things and put money on things that at the end of the day, they lose everything. Because without a proper mindset, you can take drastic decisions that can cost you money, and you will lose a lot and get into trouble with the wrong people and lose. That is why you find people who are wealthy one day and the next day they are poor and they have nothing. So that is one thing that we need to do. When you build wealth through budgeting, through making sure that you know how to handle your money, you build this wealth, and when you have it, you also protect it from unforeseen circumstances. But you don't only protect it from unforeseen circumstances, but you also protect it from being eroded by certain things that can erode your income or your wealth. For example, you need to know how to manage your taxes. And that is one thing that a lot of people struggle with, because they don't really understand how taxes work. And that is what we want to also cover today. When we talk about tax, we are talking about a lot of types of taxes that we may incur. When you're driving your car on the road, you pour petrol, and there's what we call fuel levy on that, which is a tax. When you're buying your bread at a shop and you look at your slip, you will see 15% VAT, especially if you're buying white bread. That is tax on the food you bought. When you're earning your salary and you look at your pay slip, you will find that there's something called payee, which is a tax that you pay from the salary you earned. When you're in business and you look at your financial statements, you will see that after making your profit, there's what we call income tax before you get your net profit. That is the tax you pay from the business that you have. Same applies when you buy things overseas. There's taxes that you pay for importing things to this country or your country. And all these types of taxes, you need to know them and understand them and how they affect your wealth. One thing that you must understand is that there are taxes that you are taxed on the value of the property you own. When it gains value, we have what we call capital gains tax. And you need to pay that tax when you sell this property for a higher amount than the amount that you bought it with. And these are the types of taxes that people don't know about, and we need to understand them. And when you are managing your wealth well, you need to understand which taxes you may pay and how to reduce this expense that you will have to incur. And there's some kind of tax that you don't know. When you're dead, you need to pay tax called estate duty tax. It's something that we can unpack on another day. But right now, we just want you to be informed and know that there are different types of taxes that you pay. When you have passed on, your estate will have to be wound up. And there's a certain bracket that if you pass, when we look at the total wealth you have, you will have to pay estate duty tax. And besides the estate duty tax, your properties will have to be transferred to the beneficiaries. And when this transfer is done, you may have to pay capital gains tax. But besides that, because when you died maybe working, and you were supposed to pay income tax. The income tax from the time of the financial year start to the time when you died will have to be paid. All these taxes are taxes that you pay. And that's how government functions, with taxes that are paid by you. I didn't mention all of them. There are a lot, and we can have time to just unpack taxes. But there's a few things that I want you to understand. I want you to understand that when it comes to your personal tax, there is a table that is used. And this table changes every year after the Minister of Finance has done his budget speech. And you may be in one bracket today, and the following, you are in a different bracket. So the difference between payee tax that is paid by employees is that the payee tax is paid on your gross salary that you earn. And the income tax paid by a business person, the income tax paid by a business person is paid on the profit that they have made. Can you see the difference? An employee pays tax before he uses money, before he can even withdraw a cent out of it. But a business pays tax after taking out all the expenses for that year, and then they will pay income tax on that. But both business and the individual pay VAT, value added tax, on all the items that are not exempt from that. So understanding these different types of taxes makes you understand that there are different types of investment vehicles that you need to have to protect your wealth from paying too much tax or paying more tax, not too much, but more tax. Because if you can be able to use money to buy assets like businesses that can bring in income, you're only going to be taxed on your profit. But if you're only earning income through employment, you will be charged tax that is payee, which is going to be charged on the whole amount that you have earned. So these are the kind of things that you need to understand. But besides that, as a business person, you'll pay what we call dividend tax. And these taxes are different. Dividend tax currently is around 20%. But you may be having a dividend of 200,000. But somebody else who may earn that 200,000 may pay far more than 20% on payee. So you need to understand how these things work so that you can reduce your tax and still keep your investments and keep your wealth. And I think this is one topic that we need to tackle in the future and just talk about that. What do you know about tax? I want you to, on the comment section, talk to me about your situation that you have with the taxman and what you have experienced when it comes to tax. Are you one of those people who are scared of submitting your tax returns? Or are you one of those people who are not even sure when you last submitted your tax return? Because that is one thing that is happening a lot. And you don't want a situation where you lose your worth through tax penalties, where you're penalized for not submitting your tax returns. And due to that, you lose a lot of money that you would have kept. And that is how you manage your wealth. So understanding taxes is very important. And you can also push your tax burden to the future by investing in things like your retirement annuities that do not have to pay taxes now, but pay taxes when you cash them at retirement. And that's when you start paying tax on that. And by that time, your tax bracket may be very low compared to the tax bracket now. This brings us to a situation of the two-pot system that we are now faced with, where a lot of people went and said, I want my two-pot. And when they checked the tax bracket and the money that was deducted from the total amount they were supposed to receive, they were shocked. Why am I being taxed so much? Of course you're taxed so much because you were supposed to get this money using the old system. You were supposed to get this money at retirement. And at retirement, your tax bracket may be different from your tax bracket now, maybe less than that. And by then you would have paid less tax. But now we will use the tax bracket that you have now. If it's 40%, out of 100,000, 40,000 is going to go to tax. But at retirement, maybe you would be on a 20% bracket. And because you're on 20% bracket, only 20,000 will go towards tax. And that is the difference. Hence, some people will get money back when they do their tax return, and some won't, because there's nothing else that they have that is there to defer tax from being taxed now. And without that, obviously, you will be taxed now. But if you defer your tax will be taxed later, and use your money to invest and make profit out of interest out of it. So those are the kind of things that we need to talk about when we talk about wealth protection. One other thing that a lot of people that are wealthy do, they give to charity. Because giving to charity may be a way of also reducing your tax. Because when you give out, number one, you're doing right for the community. Number two, you're helping the government in taking care of the poor. And you're also building a good brand for yourself. Why then let this money just go to tax while you can yourself do what tax was supposed to do, donating? And in many ways, donations go a long way, helping others and also helping yourself. So that is one thing that you need to think about, charity and donations. I want us to go deep and then talk about insurance. When we talk about insurance, there's a lot of people who say, you know what, when I buy a car today, after some few months I go and cancel the insurance because I don't need the insurance. And that is very risky. Why do we have insurance? Insurance is there to protect your assets in time of disasters. If you have a house and there are floods, or there's fire, or something happens to your property, it's broken into and all these things, your insurance is the way to protect this asset from staying in a level where it is protected and you can be able to get it back or renovate it or fix it. Same applies to your car. If it's stolen, if it needs to be fixed, and all that, you need this insurance to be able to do that. So these are the kind of things that you need to have. But what type of insurances do we have? We have health insurance, we have medical aids. That is part of making sure that you're having your health in check. You also have homeowners insurance for those who own properties, which is an important part of the home insurance that you must have for your house. You have life insurance. Life insurance must be explained because life insurance, unlike short-term insurance, is different. Short-term insurance are insuring an event that may or may not happen. You may have your car and it never gets stolen, or it doesn't break down, but you still have to pay your insurance. You may have a house and never have an issue with fire and other things that may happen to the property, but you still have to pay your insurance. You may have house contents insurance and you never get a break-in, but you still have to pay your insurance. And that insurance is called short-term insurance. But when we talk about life insurance, we're talking about long-term insurance. This is insuring an event that usually happens or always happens. Because when you insure your life, we know that one day you will die. And when you die, your loved ones will be left with nothing. Because if you remember when I talked about tax, I talked about estate duty tax and other taxes like capital gains tax. You may say, I don't owe anyone, and I have a property in the suburb that is paid up, which means my kids will be left with the house and the cars that are paid up. But when the transfer from yourself to your children starts, we found out that these people don't have cash to pay for the taxes that they're supposed to pay for. What should happen for these taxes to be paid? There must be liquidation. And you don't want that. That is why life insurance is important. You don't have it because the bank forced you to have it. You have it because you need it. You don't have it because the employer said we are going to also have a deduction called insurance on your payslip. You have life insurance because you need to make sure that the children that you have a life that you wanted them to have even when you're no longer there. But people don't take these things serious and they ignore these things. And that is how our parents and those around them lost their wealth. That is why we have kids who have lost their homes and they're staying in streets today because there was no insurance to ensure that the wealth that we have made is kept and is protected for the next generations to come. And that is when you need to talk about life insurance. So mostly people take life insurance because I'm buying a house. And when I'm buying a house, they force me to have life insurance. And the insurance that I have is just to cover for the property. Of course, it will cover for the property. And when you pass on or something happens to you, the property will be paid up. But when the property is paid up, that's not the end of winding up of your estate. You still have to face the taxmen. You still have to face the lawyers who are going to be helping you. You still have to face the insurance companies or banks that are going to be winding up your estate. And they need to be paid for their services. That is why some estates stay for a very long time without being finalized, because there's no money to pay for certain things. And at the end, you need to liquidate most of your assets to pay for all these things, and you may be left with nothing. And that's not what we want. So to protect your wealth, you must understand that on your personal life alone, there's different types of insurance that you must have. But not only that, you should also protect your assets like your business. There are type of insurance policies that you can take to protect your business. Sometimes people lose businesses because they've been sued. They've been sued for a lot of money. They can't afford it. The only way left is to sell your business and left with nothing. And that's not what you want. You need to have insurance that can protect you from that. But not only that, you employ people that are well experienced and they are the key and the core of the business. And when you lose them, you lose clients. Why don't you insure yourself for key people in your business so that when anything happens to them, when they leave, you are able to have a lump sum that is paid so that you can cover for the loss of income that will happen. We have insurances that can cover you in case you cannot earn an income. As a business person, there are times where you're working in your own business alone and you get sick for maybe a month or 2 months and you can't work. In that situation, you won't have income to pay for your debit orders and other responsibilities. There is insurance to ensure that you can have income in that situation when you can't work. But people don't know about these things. And these are some of the reasons why we see a lot of closures of businesses. So these are the kind of things that you need to do in either your business or your own life as a full-time employee to make sure that you're insured. So I have tried to summarize the insurance space in a nutshell to try and see that you start understanding how insurance works. Insurance is not for the employer. Insurance is not for the bank. Insurance is not just something that I do because I want to do it. Insurance is a protection of your assets. It's protecting what you have worked hard for so that you don't see it fading away just after your death. You don't see it fading away just because you're sick or you're disabled. And with this information, you should understand that is not only a funeral plan that you must have. Because that's the challenge that we're faced with now, where people are over-insured with funeral plans, and you find that you have 10 of them because you insured yourself, your mother has another one that they insured you at, your brother also insured you, your sister did the same, and your uncle and auntie also insured you. By the time you die, you go around claiming, and they start picking up that you have passed the maximum that you can claim for funeral policies. And in that case, you will forfeit your funeral policy insurance payout. And you don't want a situation like that. Instead, prioritize different types of insurances that you must have so that you may have a life cover, you may have a funeral policy, you may have short-term insurances of different kinds that will protect you from different kind of things and protect your wealth too. But one other thing that is very important that we don't really take care of, a lot of us do not write wills or even have a trust that will help us to protect our wealth in case we are no longer there. Most places where you do wills, you can do a will for free. But even though a will is for free, people don't do it Because they think immediately when I finish doing my will, they will kill me. Because now I've mentioned so and so will get this, so and so will get that. Now I'm gone. I'm going to be killed. And that's the thinking. But it is worse than not even having a will at all. Because when you die and you have not left a will, no one knows what your expectations are of what you are left behind. And the law of the country takes over. And will use the law to give your beneficiaries whatever you left behind. And it might not be what you wished for. People that were not even supposed to be part of this may become part of this because you left young kids that cannot be able to do anything for themselves. But if you had a will, you may have said, put this in a trust so that my kids can be able to go to school in the future. Make sure that this property is not taken by anyone because this property belongs to my children. Coming to think of it, if I am no longer there, do you expect my wife to stay alone? She will marry again. If it's the same to me, I will marry again. And when I marry the next person, they come with their own family. But the question is, the family you have left behind, your own children, will they be taken care of with the wealth that you left? Or they are going to be thrown on the street by the next person that took over? But you can be able to protect that by making sure that you put your will in place and you indicate what must happen to your wealth in case you pass on. Or you can build a trust. Open a trust and understand how it works, understand the disadvantages and advantages, and make sure that this trust takes care of everything and you know that you have protected your wealth. So these are the kind of things that we need to talk about. But there's one thing that we cannot leave out. The psychology of money and building a rich life. Psychology of money is a topic that has been talked about for many years. But understanding it is very difficult because this is just beyond an ordinary way of thinking. You need to think beyond just the way you think. Psychology of money is the mindset that you have. Your mindset can be influenced by your upbringing, how you were brought up. Think about your past. Think about your household, where you grew up. Did your mom and dad, or whoever the parent was, whether it was mom or dad or a guardian, did they ever sit you down and talk about their money? Did you even know how much they earned? Did you know back then how to use money? Or you were just a kid? When they were running their businesses, if they had, were you part of this, where you were being taught how to run these businesses? Or you were just left out and they say, he's a child, she's a child, and you don't have to know anything? How many times did you see your parents fighting about money? All these things that happened when you're growing up, where a guy who's driving a luxury car is seen as rich, and a guy who's owning a farm is seen as filthy. Where those who wear branded clothing are seen as smart, and those who wear normal clothes are seen as poor, without even knowing their bank accounts. The society that we lived in, where we spent our time, that is what shaped our mindset when it comes to money. And when we started working, for those who have already started, we wanted to emulate and show that lifestyle to the people around us. We wanted to be that bra so and so that we grew up looking at. We wanted to be that Miss So-and-so that we grew up looking at. Because they drove the best car. They wore the best brands. They lived in certain areas. And that is what wealth looks like. And that is the mindset that a lot of people have. But that mindset is focusing on the wrong side of the coin. The last time I was speaking here, I spoke about a coin. You can be on the left side of the coin or the right side of the coin. On the left side is the consumers who consume everything that is on their path. And on the right side is the investors who buy assets that produce consumer goods that the consumers want to buy. All the time, the wealth moves from the consumers to the investors. And buying luxury goods, branded clothing and all that may not determine your wealth. Not saying that everyone who has nice cars and branded clothing are not wealthy, but there are some who pretend to be. And you may look the part, but not have anything, and still stressed. I remember one time when I was sitting with a lady who wanted to apply for a bond. I did the application, and the application was declined. The reason behind the decline was affordability. She could not afford the loan, and she asked why. She had 2 cars that she financed and she was paying for, but she was one person. And I asked, why are you having 2 cars? She said, no, everyone at work drives a double cab, and I have a private car. So I wanted to buy a double cab so that I can fit in and also drive a big car. But that double cab cannot fit in my garage. And I don't use it a lot because it needs a lot of petrol. Usually, I will still drive my small car. But I don't want to return it back to the dealer because I won't get the total money that I bought it for. And I may still have to pay for the vehicle finance. I'm in a dilemma now. I don't know what to do. Trade this car back. But what will people say when I do that? What will my colleagues say when my car is taken? Because they will come and take it. They will come and tow it away. And my neighbors will look at me. I just kept that car because I don't want to be embarrassed. But she lost one big thing, a mortgage bond, a property that she wanted. That is a simple example. Most people are losing opportunities of investing in bigger things, investing in businesses, buying shares, and all these things because they are over-indebted. They have so many expenses and they are over-indebted. And that on its own is a problem. So you will think that because you have money, you are going to be able to keep that money. You are going to be able to stay wealthy, but your mindset can be a problem. I said this before. Your mindset can be a serious problem. Because if you think like Bra so-and-so that you grew up looking up to, Bra so-and-so would go to a tavern and buy alcohol for everyone. Bra so-and-so could go and spend on girls and all these things, and you look at him and say, that's exactly what I want to be. Go and look at people who won lotteries and other bettings and all these things. Ask them, how did you lose your money? They'll tell you about a luxury lifestyle they started living. Look at footballers, musicians, actors. some who made a lot of money and drove the best cars, when they pass on, we all have to contribute. Because when they had money, they did not get the right advice. And their mind says that they had when they were growing up took over, and they ended up spending too much and not investing in assets. Let me give you an example. If I'm a footballer and start earning good money overseas, while I'm earning this money, I start buying assets like franchises, like building companies, like investing in the stock market, and such. When I retire after some few years, will those assets just disappear, or will I be able to keep them and continue as a businessman? I can do that. But because of the mindset, when I start getting this wealth, I cannot live in a 3-bedroom house anymore. I want to live in center. I want to live in the best place ever. And instead of buying, mostly I want to rent so that I can rent the best of the best. I want to change cars every day. I want to have luxury cars lined up so that everyone can see that I'm wealthy. But all those things are expenses. Instead, I should have invested in something that will last long, something that will bring money, something that is an asset and can last even after I'm no longer a football player. And that is a simple example just of a football player. There are different careers that we enter into and earn a lot of money. And when we start earning a lot of money, the mindset takes over, and the bad psychology, the bad habits that we have developed growing up, that we have watched from the people that we grow up around, takes over. So I want you to think about yourself. What is that habit that you have that is costing you not to develop or to be able to protect the wealth that you have? Why is your business staying the same for the past 20 years? Why is there no growth in your life in general? Why is your wealth not going up but going down? Why is your wealth staying the same? Is that not the mindset that you have that is contributing to that? And that is where the psychology of money comes in. The minute you master your psychology, the minute you master your mindset and take out bad habits that you may have and bring in new habits, you may become wealthy, and you can also grow that wealth. The challenge that we have is FOMO, fear of missing out. When my friend buy a new car, I start having problems. I start having stress that I don't have a new car. But the car that I'm driving is still functioning very well. And I'm not even paying for it because I have paid it up. But because the neighbor is driving a new Mercedes-Benz, I must go and get that. Because the neighbor is now staying in a certain suburb, I must move there. Because I'm having a fear of missing out. When people go and spend money on alcohol and drinks and parties and all these things, I do the same, not even knowing where they got the money from and if they have any left behind. I go and spend my last money because of fear of missing out. And when we talk about fear of missing out, this leads us to what we call lifestyle inflation. We talk about inflation, where prices go up because of inflation. But there's what we call lifestyle inflation, where your money is eroded or disappears because of you changing your lifestyle. Whenever you get a salary increase, whenever you get extra money, you change your lifestyle. And that is a money mindset issue that we need to tackle. So if you want to protect your wealth, you should also learn to be disciplined when you come around money. On radio, I once said People tend to behave differently when there's money around, and behave differently when there's no money around. A simple example that I can give you. Month end, when you have earned money, you have a lot of things to think about so that you can spend that money and finish it. You don't even take your food container to work anymore. You buy from restaurants because it's month end. Month end, go to the shops. Go to the fast food stores. You will wonder if these people don't eat fast food during the month, because the queues will be long and everyone is buying fast food and spending a lot of money. You will find people buying things that they don't need just because the money that they have is there. And that's exactly the mindset we have. 3 days down the line after getting your salary, there's nothing in the account. There's just money for transport to go to work. And you live well for the rest of the month without going to the shops, without spending too much, and you are fine. Why don't you try and accept that even when I have money, I can survive without spending it? But whenever you touch money, you don't want it to stay with you. You want it to move to the next person. But the minute you start knowing how to keep money and make this money work for you, that is the time when you turn and start building your wealth. You may have built your wealth to a certain level, but you need to grow your wealth to another level. And you are not going to do that when you don't have money discipline. Money mindset and lifestyle inflation cannot only be caused by you, but it can also be caused by people around you, the company you keep. If your spouse is not financially literate, you may have fights about money, and you may end up giving up and giving in and allow them to overspend and do as they like because you're scared that you may lose them or you may fight. And in that way, you may not make it. You may have all these ideas, you may have all these business ideas and all these investment ideas, but you cannot implement them without money because somebody else in the house is thinking of spending it. Whenever you say we have a 200,000 rent that we just received, they are thinking, how are we going to spend it? Whenever you say, I just earned my salary, it's month end, they are thinking, oh, okay, I want that and that and that and that and that and that and that. And within a second, the money is gone. And they can buy and buy and buy. A lot of people have 2 wardrobes where they keep their clothes. Not 1, 2. There's clothes that I wear and there's clothes that I used to wear. There's clothes that I wore in an event, but I cannot repeat that because another event, they will know that this dress, I wore it before. And those are the type of expenses that we have these days. I spoke about food. That when we buy food, we buy so much and we can't even finish and we throw that food in the dustbin. And when you throw food in the dustbin, remember you used money to buy the food. And when you throw in the dustbin, you're throwing the same money that you bought the food with. Same applies with luxury. You can buy luxury when you can afford it. But when you can't afford, you don't force it. Learn to live within your means. Learn to know your class. Because a lot of times we don't know our class. Or we know our class, but we pretend that we're not in that class. If you have a class of living in a 3-bedroom house, live there. That's your class. And accept it. But if you're in a class where you can live in a 4 or 5-bedroom house or an estate, you can afford that, live there. But if you can't afford it, don't force it. And this tendency of trying to impress people with money got a lot of people into trouble. And that is why today they can't build wealth. Because when I was proposing a girl, I used money. I didn't use me Love me for who I am. If I'm broke, I'm broke. Accept me as I am. If I'm rich, I'm rich. Accept me as I am. But you showed another side of you that do not exist. With your friends, you're complaining that I don't have money. But when you're with your girlfriend, you show off as if you have a lot of money. You even ask your friends to give you keys to their houses, keys to their cars, so that you can show off girls that, you know what, I'm rich. But when the reality starts coming, when you have married this person who married you for the wealth you have, you start crying. I can't even grow. I can't even do anything because I've married a gold digger. You may call them gold diggers. You may call them all names, but they didn't force themselves on you. You went out there, looked for them, and brought them here. And that's exactly what you get for living beyond your means and showing off things that are not yours. So this is the lifestyles that we have out there, the money mindset that we have. A lot of us are driving the cars that we don't own, living in the houses that we don't own, wearing clothes that we borrowed, food that we borrowed, and we think that is a lifestyle. But that's not a lifestyle that we're looking for. We want you to be honest with yourself first and stop lying to yourself. And the minute you are honest with yourself, that's when you will live an honest living and you will be able to make it in life. When you want to build wealth, look at all these billionaires that you see. The type of clothes they wear. They wear ordinary clothes that anyone can buy. Sometimes they even drive cars that anyone can drive. Live in houses that are affordable, but they are called wealthy. But you don't have anything. But the car you drive, the clothes you wear, the place you live at is far more expensive than you can afford. And you wonder why you are stressed. You wonder why month end is the most stressful moment in your life, where you don't even want to think about money, where you don't even want to go to your money app to check your balance because you're scared of what you are going to see. And that is why you don't even budget, because you're scared. So the money mindset is a key to building wealth. We spoke about a few things. We spoke about budgeting. That affects your mindset. If your money mindset or your mind or psychology has bad habits, you will not budget because you think, I can survive without it. When you don't budget, you won't invest because you think there's no need to invest. I live today and I enjoy today. And you live like a hunter-gatherer. And when you don't invest, you won't build wealth. And you will be angry at those who are building wealth. You start calling them names. No, he's having that business because, he paid Chocho. No, he's having that money because, he stole from so-and-so. No, she slept her way to the top. That is why she's where she is. And we come up with all these excuses to make ourselves feel better because we don't want to have the discipline that everyone else has. I spoke about a woman who started with a spaza shop and ended up owning trucks. Go and look at social media. Things people are saying about her. No, she did this and she did that. Why? Because they want to feel better. To say, the reason why I'm where I am is because of somebody else, not me. And the minute you're pointing at somebody else, this one is pointing at you. And you are supposed to be responsible for your own situation. The minute you start taking accountability and say, look, I'm not wealthy, I'm not having what I wanted to have, I'm not where I wanted to be because of me, not anyone else. Not because of my parents, not because of where I was born, not because of politics and all these things that we blame, because of me. If somebody next to me makes it and I don't, and we have the same opportunities, then it's my fault. I could make it too. If people who don't have anything are making it, why aren't you making it? So wealth can be preserved, but if the mindset is not good, you can lose it. Finance is not just about numbers. It's also funding your lifestyle. You know, when you are wealthy, you are able to travel. When you are wealthy, you are able to spend time with family because you can buy time. And that's one thing that people don't realize. Where you work day and night and you don't even have time to rest because you're trying to survive. But when you become wealthy, you have family time where you can spend time with your family and let other people work for you. Let your money work for you. And you can have hobbies where you can go and play tennis, where you can go and watch sports and have your own time when everyone else is busy working. You can help charity, you can do charity work, giving back to the community. And that feeling cannot be bought. But you won't be able to have all these things. You won't have to be able to have vacations when you don't want to build wealth, when you don't have a mindset where you can be able to get out of the rat race. When we talk about the rat race, this rat is running in circles and is going nowhere. But how long will it take you to run this race, where you will run the race and never finish? Your dad did it like that. Your great-grandfather did it like that. Why can't you be the first one to break the chain in your family and make it in life? Through that wealth that you have built, you can also make sure that the next generations are not as poor as the background that you're from. And it's possible. People have done it. You can do it too. But the question is your mindset ready for that? Some are just scared of challenges and they become risk averse. They see opportunities that they can grab. They don't grab them because they're scared of the unknown. And a lot of opportunities pass us because we are so reserved, we are so in our own space, we don't want any challenge. But when we start challenging ourselves, when we start getting out of the chains and start looking for opportunities, start making sure that we change our mindset and start stopping to complain and come up with solutions, we are going to go far. I said in the previous episode, there's a lot of people who lost their jobs, but they're not losing their jobs without a skill. They have a skill. If you were working in a bakery, you know how to bake bread. And you know that in your village where you are, people eat bread every day. But you're not going to be baking bread. You're going to sit at home and say, I'm unemployed. No one cares. The government must do something. There are a lot of people sitting with qualifications and skills and doing nothing about it. But it's time to start thinking. Mindset shift will change our lives. For those who have listened to this and believe this will work for them and try and implement it, thank you. But for those whose mindset have not changed yet, I want you to change your mindset and your way of thinking. Because that's the only way where Africa will get out from being consumers of the world and become producers of the world. We are sitting on top of gold. We are sitting on top of the labor market. We are sitting on top of different minerals, but we cannot extract them because most of us are scared of challenges that we are supposed to face to be able to do that. So I'm thinking this is the time where we change our paradigm shift and start thinking different and doing things different. And if we do that, we will build this country. We will build this continent. And everyone will be attracted to this continent. And that's how investors from other countries will come. Why should I come to a country where there's nothing to look at and say, I want that? Where the owners of the country are not making it. Why should I come and think I will make it in a country where people are complaining every day and they're doing nothing about it? They want to see you succeeding. They want to see you making it, and they will want to make it too, and they will bring their wealth here. And that's how we are going to build wealth. Take advantage of all these opportunities that we have and use them to build wealth for the next generation. I'm Tshilidzi Mavhungu from Tshilidzi Mavhungu Financial Literacy Foundation. This is the Financial Literacy Corner, where we talk everything financial literacy and more about money. I thank you for listening to us.